Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and welcome back to... What is this? Oh, yeah, it's Zombie Train. That's right. That is right. Hold on, I gotta get a document open while I cover what is going on this week. We've got to finish this connection that we started with. Whoops, what just happened? We've got to finish this connection we started with last episode that we broke off when we added Kerosene Valley. Now, you know, that's all this is really, and we add a significant portion of the dual gauge. We've got to get all this to line up, which is the most major problem. And we've also got to add the bridge, and the tunnel, and some other stuff. But that's about it. We just get this all set up to be packed and shipped, if it were to be, which it's not going to be. It's not far enough along to warrant another alpha. But anyways... let me grab this. It should be in the Zombie Train folder on my drive. Zombie Train timeline. This was... Well, we'd been around for a while. We, back in March, we'd finished with everything in Toronto. And as I was saying, we started doing a lot of runs, and then we gave Toronto the, Berkshire. And so they started doing the errands, so to speak, and we were left to some more interesting things. In the meantime, we'd met with the Pawtucks. We sort of had a deal going, and then we didn't have a deal, and then we had to not replace a bridge, but fix some damage, because they tried to burn one of our bridges. They tried to burn... What is that? The very famous, the viaduct up there, running into Boston. And they did significant damage to the rail and ties. The viaduct was fine, so we just had to relay and sort of straighten out everything that was up there. We went from 2 tracks to 1, but that wasn't really a problem necessarily. It's not like there were many trains using it. Anyways, 2 months later, 3 months later, sort of at the beginning of July, we're in Providence and we see this ferry moor up near Providence, and we stay sort of on the outskirts. We've got to go through it from time to time. There isn't much of an option. But we see this ferry moor up, and these guys are from the Republic of Block Island, which I mentioned a little bit last time. And that starts a long and sort of, very bountiful friendship, which Donadio, the guy who ran Quonset, who we had still pretty significant ties to at this point, we were regaining ties to them because they helped us beat back the Pawtucks, and they were sort of our deep water port. Not that we had much use for boats at that time. But they held Quonset. We did a lot of stuff at Quonset. It sort of became our maintenance hub. New Haven was sort of our people hub. And while we were in New Haven a month later, the Navy came up. And by the Navy, I don't mean the whole Pacific and Atlantic fleet, but it was the carrier USS Enterprise, which is, the first nuclear carrier. What is that? CV-65? USS Enterprise. I'm looking for the nuclear one. Yeah, CVN-65. When did this get decommissioned? Because I know, again, it was towards the end of its life. Yeah. As of... She was inactivated on 1st December 2012, but she was reactivated by the person who ended up in command, which is Admiral... What was his name? It started with a G. Gorn or something? Admiral Gortney. Admiral Gortney. That's who it was. He comes in on the Enterprise. And, that's a sight to behold. But he pulls up. He takes a boat ashore. So to speak, he took an Osprey ashore, and he lands it down in sort of one of the more open areas in New Haven where there are a lot of people clustered. I'd say it would have been cool if he'd gone to an airport or something, but oh well. He just sort of sat down, and it was well within the walls, and of course it made a lot of noise, and it kind of pissed off the New Havenites, who were working on defending the place, and this new threat, or this new, all this noise. it made the Zacks perk up a little bit, and it you know, they got a little bit peeved on that, but, you know, they were sort of like, oh, what the hell, what are we doing? And so he goes, okay, the military has this initiative. This initiative to retake New York City. Now, keep in mind, New York City, one of the most densely populated, if not the most densely populated place in America, and at this point, undoubtedly the most zombie-infested. You know, on the order of over 10 million zombies, I think. You know, keep in mind, New York City has a population of, what, 20 million? You know, a lot of people, you know, they tried to make the run for it and failed. And they'd get clogged up on the interstates and stuff like that, and all the zombies would just come picking, like, you know, breaking through windows, tearing people out of their cars. You know, New Yorkers are New Yorkers, they're hardy folk, but they don't, you know, they're not a sort of firearm-heavy people, so they didn't, you know, they didn't fare as well as some of the more southern cities, like, I think, you know, Houston or Dallas did really well for a significant period of time. Again, those two were sort of some bright lights. One of them ended up getting rehabilitated after almost falling to Zacks, and the other one, by the time the military got there, they'd done a lot of infighting, and there really wasn't anyone left. Anyways, I'm not the foremost expert on that area of the U.S. anyways. So, the Navy guys, they're trying to recruit people, and they've got the most high-tech of stuff, the kind of stuff you'd figure was classified. But, you know, they you know, it's not classified now, you need to fight a war, so they're bringing in all this state-of-the-art equipment to fight the zombies and show everyone, hey, America's still the top dog. So it's gonna be televised, it's gonna be broadcast on, you know, whatever's left of the internet, it's gonna be beamed to satellite, so everyone around the world can see, you know, how great America is and how we're defeating these masses of zombies that have clustered up in our largest city, and we're taking back this city. And the admiral, and he's making this, you know, speech sort of to that effect on a makeshift podium in front of this very large crowd of people. You know, very large for the time. It's probably, you know, 1,000 people tops. But you know, I'm standing sort of at the back of it, off to the side, and he knows who I am. Or, you know, if he doesn't know me personally, he knows the zombie train, and he comes to me afterwards. You know, and everyone's sort of swarming around, but he does his thing, he talks, and then everyone's sort of like, okay, yeah, that was a thing. And they move on. And so I go to leave, and it's like, okay, we'll see. I'm sort of going to try and stay out of this, because I've already had enough to deal with zombies. I don't really want to go to New York. New York is death. I've spent probably days of my life at this point avoiding New York in railroad operations. However, he comes to me and he goes, okay, so I've got this deal for you. And he goes, okay, you know, we'll give you... He promised, like, you know, full machine shop, you know, head of your own sort of unit, head of, you know, he's, you know, said these words like, we like what you're doing out here, really impressed, you know, your strategies are awesome, you know, not in so many words, but, you know, he flowered me, you know, not flowered, he showered me, thank you, with compliments, and basically sort of wooed me along to go, okay, you know, this isn't such a terrible idea, we've got the full strength of the military to back us up, you know, basically what can go wrong? You know, we've got all this stuff now. This is before, again, we're still trying to understand the zombies at this point. It's only a little while after the Great Panic. Things are still kind of shaky. They go, we've got, what we can do is, you know, we saw how you had people on flat cars and leaning out and shooting the zombies as you pulled away. Well, what we're going to have you do is, we're going to set up this line of troops and everything. We want you behind the front line. You know, we'll get you to a place where we can have a railroad there. And I think it was actually on a subway track, and that was a real pain to get to. Luckily, the Mikado doesn't need super heavy rail. But they tore out a lot of third rail for us to fit through there, and they got us into the town, into Yonkers. Yonkers, short. north of New York City, proper, north of Manhattan. And that's where a lot of these zombies had sort of clustered out of the city itself. Or no, were we pointing north or south? I can't remember. I've got to consult the book on that one. Anyways, we get this train lined up behind these lines of guys with saws, M249s, and these Humvees with rockets, and Abrams tanks, and precision guided munitions, whatnot. If you want a real account of Yonkers, go check out, in World War Z there was an amazing account of what went down in that town. The entire battle that took place there. Again, I still shiver when I think of it. Because, looking back, it was sort of like, yeah, America, look what we can do. The operation was planned so badly. We were broadcasting it, we were televising the thing, so we were going for shock and awe. That was wrong. That was so wrong, and we would learn that later. But we had the train in the background, we had naval guns on flat cars. Maybe not naval guns, I'm not sure what they were, but they were like weapon emplacements. They were pretty good-sized cannons on flat cars. And, they had these guys firing off shells. Not my guys operating them. We just had, we had the engine and the tender and, coal and water just in case. And, just sort of keep us... No, we didn't have coal. We just had a tanker of water to keep us steamed up. Because you go through water a lot faster. And of course all the plumbing was shot in the area. Anyways, so we had the tanker of water, and then we had, 3 or 4... No, maybe it was 5. There were 3 of the same kind, and then there were 2, oddballs. One of them was a mortar. Well, there were 2 mortars on one. And then there were these, bigger guns. I don't know what size they are. Not 3 or 4 inch, maybe. Yeah, actually, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. To my credit, these were kind of just random artillery pieces they'd brought in and go, here, we're going to mount this to a flat car, and it's going to look awesome. And to their credit, it looked pretty awesome. It didn't do a goddamn thing. When you got to see, the sky cam, right? You got to see the helicopters above showing these masses of hundreds of thousands and then millions of zombies that were coming, and you'd launch rockets at them, and it would throw them up in the air, and they'd land, and they'd get back up. Because the thing you've got to do with zombies is you have to destroy, and I mean destroy, not with G-forces. It doesn't do much to them because all the liquid in their body is coagulated. All the G-force won't do that to them. You can't flash boil them with the fireball. Again, because the liquid's coagulated, they don't have anything to boil. The zombies are not 70% water like we are. They're more like 10%, and it's sort of chunky. It's weird. And it's really kind of freaky because it's really, really hard to kill a zombie if you're not specifically trying to. And these guys were launching, high explosive shells. Whatever. The flechette shells did really well. But they didn't bring hardly any of them. And it's the kind of thing the soldiers get pissed about more. But I'm sitting there and going, well, what are we going to do? And we're shooting these things off. And I'm watching the zombies come closer, and I'm watching people on the front line start to panic and run backwards and start pouring over the train to get away. Because now we're in the way. And we're blocking vehicles in and whatever, and it looks like people are going to start running us over, so I sort of just went F it. And I just threw the train in reverse, and I started backing the hell out of there. And then people were, people started running along the side, people clambering up on the side of the thing. And the train starts to pull away, and I see this one woman out there, and she's still got a gun, and she's popping heads like no tomorrow. And John was with me, and I said, John, take these controls. And I hopped down from the train, and, again, I was sort of, what's the word? May have been a little bit twisted. I was panicking as well, but I was not, I'm not going to drive away from her and watch her die. So I grabbed her by the arm, and I said this really cheesy line, and she just turns and gives me the dumpiest smile, and runs back to the train. She was the last person out of there. She was the last person out of there that survived. there was so much ordnance there left over, but we hightailed it back to New Haven. I was not happy. We didn't get anything promised. Trainman out.